The arrival of the underdog, the magnetic seals of Coalition Station Nexus hissed open, releasing a cloud of recycled atmosphere into the docking bay. Sarah Chen stepped through the airlock, her standard Earth diplomatic uniform looking painfully plain against the kaleidoscope of alien technology surrounding her. She pulled her shoulders back, chin up, and walked into what she knew would be another gauntlet of mockery. The laughter started before her boots finished their first echo across the polished deck. A group of Velkari merchants, their crystalline bodies chiming with amusement, pointed at her with their translucent appendages. Their leader, a particularly large specimen whose core pulsed with orange light, spoke in heavily accented Common. "Look, brothers, the humans finally sent their representative. Did they run out of robots to send instead?" Sarah maintained her steady pace, her expression neutral. She had been briefed extensively on this. Humanity's recent admission to the Galactic Coalition made them the newest members, and with only 50 years of spaceflight under their belts, they were considered barely civilized by species who had been traveling the stars for millennia. A Thornax warrior, standing nearly 3 meters tall with forearms and skin like molten copper, blocked her path. His tusks gleamed as he grinned down at her. "Little soft thing, are you lost? The pet registration is 3 levels down." His companions, a mix of other warrior species, erupted in harsh laughter that sounded like grinding metal. Sarah looked up at him, her dark eyes calm. "Ambassador Sarah Chen, Earth Diplomatic Corps. I'm expected at the council briefing in 30 minutes. If you'll excuse me." She stepped around him, or tried to. One of his lower arms shot out, not touching her but close enough to make the threat clear. "Humans." The Thornax spat the word like it tasted bad. "You can barely survive without your mechanical suits. Your ships are slow, your weapons primitive. Why the Coalition accepted you is a mystery that—" The warrior's words died in his throat. The entire docking bay fell silent. A silence so complete that Sarah could hear the distant hum of the station's fusion reactors. Every alien in the vast space had turned toward the main entrance, where a figure stood backlit by the corridor's harsh lighting. Zixtor of the Krillian Apex Legion had arrived. Sarah had studied every major figure in the Coalition, but no amount of research had prepared her for the physical presence of an Apex warrior. The Krillians were already legendary, a species that had evolved on a death world where the gravity was 3 times Earth standard, and the atmosphere was toxic to most life forms. But the Apex Legion was something beyond even that. They were the elite of the elite, warriors who had undergone genetic modifications that pushed them to the absolute peak of what biological life could achieve. Zixtor stood 2.5 meters tall, his body covered in natural armor plating that shifted between deep purple and black, depending on the angle of light. 4 eyes, each capable of independent movement, surveyed the docking bay with predatory efficiency. His reputation preceded him like a shockwave. Victor of the Battle of the Void Nexus, destroyer of the Hive Fleet at Andromeda's Edge, the warrior who had single-handedly held the breach at Station Prime for 6 hours. Against an entire invasion force, he moved through the crowd, and beings twice his size scrambled to get out of his way. The Thornax warrior who had been intimidating Sarah practically teleported backward, his copper skin paling to a sick yellow. Zixtor approached with the fluid grace of an apex predator, each step deliberate and controlled. He stopped directly in front of Sarah. The height difference meant she had to crane her neck to look at his face, but she didn't step back. The station held its collective breath. Everyone knew what happened to those who displeased an apex warrior. The stories were legendary and terrifying in equal measure. Zixtor's 4 eyes focused on her, and then something impossible happened. His armored faceplates shifted into what the Krillians used for a smile, and he spoke in perfect, unaccented English. "Sarah Chen, I have been waiting for you." Before anyone could process this, Zixtor did something that sent shockwaves through every witness. He extended his right primary arm, hand open, offering what was unmistakably a human handshake. "It is good to see you again, my friend." Sarah's face broke into a genuine smile for the first time since leaving Earth. She took his hand without hesitation, her small fingers dwarfed by his armored grip. "Hello, Zix, it's been too long." The silence in the docking bay was deafening. The Velkari merchant's core flickered erratically. The Thornax warrior's tusks had gone pale. Someone dropped a cargo container, and the crash echoed like thunder, but no one moved. Zixtor turned his auxiliary eyes toward the crowd while keeping his primary ones on Sarah. "This human," he said. his voice carrying to every corner of the bay, is under my personal protection. Any disrespect shown to her is disrespect shown to me, to the entire Apex Legion. Does anyone here wish to challenge that? The assembled aliens suddenly found the floor, the ceiling, their own appendages, anything but Zixtor. Fascinating to look at. The Thornax warrior who had blocked Sarah's path actually whimpered. I thought not, Zixtor said. He looked back at Sarah. Come. We have much to discuss before the council meeting. And I believe you'll want to see the modifications I've made to the station's defensive grid, based on those sketches you sent me. As they walked toward the exit together, Sarah heard the whispers starting behind them. The human knows Zixtor? How is that possible? Did he just call her friend? What sketches? The Velkari merchant's voice carried over the others. If Zixtor respects the human, perhaps we should reconsider. His words trailed off, but Sarah heard them clearly. She allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 of humanity's integration was proceeding exactly as planned. The corridor leading away from the docking bay was mercifully empty. Zixtor's presence tended to clear paths efficiently. As they walked, his longer stride automatically adjusted to match hers, something that didn't go unnoticed by Sarah. You've improved your English, she observed. Last time we spoke, you still struggled with contractions. Your language is surprisingly complex for such a young species, Zixtor replied. But I had motivation to learn. Your message said you would be coming as ambassador. I wanted to be able to speak with you properly. They passed a viewport showing the infinite tapestry of stars, with coalition vessels of every configuration drifting past. Sarah paused to look at them, and Zixtor stopped beside her. They don't know, do they? She asked quietly. About Kepler 442b? The Battle of Kepler 442b is classified beyond even council clearance, Zixtor confirmed. Only the Apex Legion and a handful of others know what truly happened there. What you did there. Sarah's reflection in the viewport looked tired. I was just a medical officer. I did what anyone would have done. Zixtor's lower arms crossed, a gesture he had learned from humans that indicated disagreement. You saved my entire clan, my mate, my younglings, my blood brothers. When our life support failed and the medic computers couldn't process Krillian biology, you did something none of us had seen before. You improvised. The memory was still vivid. The human medical ship had responded to a distress call, finding a Krillian clan ship dead in space, its crew dying from a bioweapon specifically designed to target their unique physiology. Sarah had been a junior medical officer then, fresh out of Earth's academy, while her superiors had followed protocol, searching databases for treatments that didn't exist. Sarah had done what humans did best. She had made something new, adapting your coffee. Make her into a dialysis machine was creative, she said with a slight smile. You saved 47 lives with equipment held together by what you called duct tape and pure stubbornness, Zixtor said. My youngest daughter still lives because you refused to accept that something was impossible, merely because it had never been done before. A soft alarm chimed through the station, followed by an automated announcement in multiple languages. All senior staff to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Zixtor's armor plates shifted, a sign of concern. That's a level 3 alert. Something is very wrong. They ran toward the station's command center, their footsteps echoing in now empty corridors as personnel rushed to their posts. The command center doors opened to reveal organized chaos. The station commander, an elderly Altarian with bioluminescent skin, was barking orders at the mixed-species crew. What's the situation? Zixtor demanded. The commander's 3 eyes swiveled to focus on them. Reactor core malfunction. The magnetic containment is failing. We have maybe 20 minutes before it goes critical. Sarah pushed forward, ignoring the surprised looks from the command crew. Show me the readings. Human, this is not your concern, the commander began, but Zixtor's growl cut him off. Sarah was already at the main display, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. Your containment field is oscillating. The frequency modulation is creating a feedback loop. She pulled up several diagnostic screens simultaneously, her mind racing. This isn't a malfunction. Someone sabotaged this. Look at these harmonics. Someone specifically tuned them to create a resonance cascade. The Altarian engineer at the console, supposedly one of the best in the coalition, stared at her. That's impossible to detect. The calculations alone would take. The math is similar to audio engineering, Sarah interrupted. Humans have been playing with sound waves for centuries. This is just a scaled-up version. She turned to the commander. I can fix this, but I need access to the manual controls. And someone needs to get me to the reactor room. Now. The truth behind Brotherhood. The reactor room was a cathedral of impossibly advanced technology, a sphere 50 meters across with the containment core suspended in the center by magnetic fields that were visibly fluctuating. The air crackled with energy, and Sarah could feel her hair standing on end under her helmet. The radiation will kill you in minutes, the chief engineer protested over the comm. Even with the emergency suit, humans are more radiation resistant than you think. Sarah cut him off, though she knew he was partially right. She had maybe 10 minutes before the dose became lethal. 15 if she was lucky. Zixtor, I need you to manually adjust the field generators on your side while I work on the harmonics. Understood, Zixtor replied without hesitation. His Krillian biology could handle the radiation indefinitely, one of the advantages of evolving on a death world. Sarah pulled out her personal tablet, a piece of Earth technology that looked laughably primitive compared to the Coalition's holographic interfaces. But it had one advantage. It was entirely isolated from the station's compromised systems. Her fingers flew across the screen as she wrote new code from scratch. What are you doing? The chief engineer demanded. The containment protocols require. Your protocols assume the system isn't fighting you, Sarah replied, sweat beading on her forehead as the radiation began to take its toll. Someone programmed this sabotage to counter your standard responses, so we don't use standard responses. She pulled out a roll of duct tape from her emergency kit, something she never traveled without, despite the mockery it usually earned her, and began physically modifying one of the control panels. Zixtor, when I say now, I need you to reverse the polarity on generators 3 through 7. That will cause a cascade failure. Trust me. Sarah finished her modifications and started uploading her code through the jerry-rigged connection. The saboteur expected us to try to strengthen the containment. Instead, we're going to let it fail. Controlled failure. We surf the cascade instead of fighting it. The core's pulsing grew more erratic. Emergency alarms screamed. Sarah could taste metal in her mouth. Never a good sign when dealing with radiation. Now. Zixtor acted without hesitation. The core's light flared blindingly bright, and for a moment Sarah thought she had miscalculated. Then her program took effect, catching the cascade and redirecting it, turning the explosion inward, compressing it into a controlled implosion that reformed into stable containment. The alarms stopped. The core hummed peacefully. Sarah collapsed to her knees, her vision blurring. Strong arms caught her. Zixtor had crossed the room in seconds. Medical team to reactor room immediately, he barked into his comm. To Sarah more quietly, that was insane. That was human, she corrected weakly. We're too stupid to know what's impossible. Later, in the medical bay, Sarah woke to find half the station's command staff crowded around her bed. The Altarian commander looked at her with all three eyes, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with what she had learned was respect. You saved the station, he said simply. How did you know what to do? Sarah struggled to sit up, Zixtor helping her. Humans have a saying, if you can't fix it with duct tape, you're not using enough duct tape. At their confused looks, she continued more seriously. We've only been in space for 50 years, but we've been solving problems with limited resources for millions of years. We call it percussive maintenance or jury rigging. You develop an instinct for making things work even when they shouldn't. The Thornax warrior from the docking bay was there, his copper skin now a healthy bronze. I owe you an apology, human. Ambassador Chen, I spoke from ignorance. Before Sarah could respond, another alarm sounded. This one was different, the combat alert. Raiders, the commander announced, reading his display. 3 heavy cruisers. They must have been waiting for the reactor to fail. Sarah started to get up, but Zixtor gently pushed her back. You've done enough. Rest. Like hell, Sarah replied, swinging her legs off the bed. You said it yourself, Zix. We're too stupid to know when to quit. The command center was a flurry of activity when they arrived. On the main display, 3 ships of mismatched design but obvious hostile intent were approaching fast. Shields at 60%, someone reported. The reactor restart drained our reserves. Weapon systems online, but targeting is sluggish, another added. The sabotage affected multiple systems. The commander looked grim. We can't fight 3 cruisers with compromised systems. Sarah moved to an auxiliary console. You can't fight them with conventional tactics. She looked at Zixtor. Remember that thing I did with your clan ship's coffee maker? Understanding dawned in his 4 eyes. You want to turn the station into a weapon. The raiders expect a crippled station, Sarah explained, already working. They don't expect crazy humans with duct tape and a death wish. She turned to the commander. I need you to vent atmosphere from sections 7 through 12. Create a debris field. That will make us look more damaged, the tactical officer protested. Exactly. Sarah's grin was slightly manic. Zixtor, can your people handle boarding operations? Always. Good, because we're going to let them board. The plan was insane. Sarah reconfigured the station's artificial gravity generators, turning corridors into kill zones where gravity could shift from 0 to 5 times standard in seconds. She rigged the lighting system to strobe at frequencies that would disorient most species, but that humans and Krillians could filter out. She even repurposed the station's waste management system into improvised chemical weapons. This is madness, the Velkari merchant said, watching her work. This is human warfare, Zixtor corrected. They once won a battle on their homeworld by convincing the enemy they had an army of inflatable soldiers. They defeated armored vehicles with bottles of flaming liquid. They turned farming equipment into weapons of war. The raiders took the bait. Seeing the damaged station, they moved in for boarding. The moment their cutting torches hit the hull, Sarah activated her modifications. What followed was 12 minutes of absolute chaos that would later be studied at military academies across the coalition. Raiders found themselves suddenly weighing 5 times normal, then floating, then slammed into walls. Lights turned corridors into seizure-inducing nightmare mazes. What they thought was smoke from fires turned out to be human-designed tear gas. Meanwhile, Zixtor led a counter-boarding operation, using the chaos to take one of the raider ships from the inside. Sarah coordinated from the command center, her human ability to find patterns in chaos, allowing her to direct the defense with uncanny precision. When it was over, 2 raider ships were captured. One was fleeing at maximum speed, and the station had taken no casualties. The command center erupted in celebration. The Thornax warrior approached Sarah and, to everyone's surprise, performed a human salute. I would be honored to learn your methods of warfare, Ambassador. The secret, Sarah said, exhausted but smiling, is that we never had the luxury of doing things the right way. We had to find the way that worked with whatever we had on hand. Zixtor placed a hand on her shoulder. This is why I vouched for humanity's admission to the coalition, not because of your technology, which you'll develop in time, but because of this. He gestured to the controlled chaos around them. You see possibilities where others see impossibilities. The Altarian commander cleared his throat. Ambassador Chen, I will be recommending to the Coalition Council that humanity be fast-tracked for full membership, with access to all technology exchanges and trade routes. Sarah nodded, trying to look surprised. In truth, this had been the plan all along. Humanity knew it couldn't compete with the Coalition's technology or military might. But they had something else, the ability to think outside boxes that other species didn't even know they were in. There's one more thing, Zixtor said, his armor plates shifting in what Sarah recognized as amusement. The Council doesn't know that Earth has been monitoring their communications for the past 10 years, do they? Sarah's poker face was perfect. I have no idea what you're talking about. Of course not. Zixtor's mandibles clicked in laughter. Just like you accidentally happened to be assigned to the medical ship that responded to our distress call at Kepler 442b, and you coincidentally had detailed schematics for improving coalition defense systems. Pure coincidence, Sarah agreed innocently. The truth was, humanity had learned long ago that when you're the underdog, you don't play by the big dog's rules. You make your own. They had monitored coalition communications, identified key players like Zixtor who could be allies, and engineered situations to prove humanity's worth. Your people are terrifying, Zixtor said quietly enough that only Sarah could hear. You turned being underestimated into a weapon. We learned from history, Sarah replied. The clever monkey that the lions ignore is the one that survives and thrives. Around them, the various species of the coalition were already beginning to reassess humanity. The Velkari were discussing trade possibilities. The Thornax were asking about military exchanges. Even the normally aloof Altarians were showing interest in human problem-solving methods. So what's humanity's next move? Zixtor asked. Sarah looked out at the stars through the command center's viewport. Now, we learn everything we can. We adapt, we improve. And in 50 years, when the next crisis hits the coalition, we'll be ready to save everyone's asses again. And they'll never see it coming, Zixtor added. They never do, Sarah agreed. That's the thing about humans. We're too primitive to be a threat, too weak to be worried about, too new to be taken seriously, right up until the moment we're not. As the station returned to normal operations with repairs beginning and reports being filed, Sarah noticed something different. The looks she received were no longer mocking or dismissive. There was wariness there, yes, but also respect, and perhaps a touch of fear. Good. Let them wonder what else humanity was capable of. The galaxy was about to learn that the newest member of the coalition might just be its most dangerous, not because of strength or technology, but because of something far more powerful. Human ingenuity, determination, and the absolute refusal to accept that anything was impossible. The age of humanity had begun, and it started not with a roar but with duct tape, coffee makers, and the kind of crazy that only a species from a death world called Earth could produce.